Hey there, ladies and gentlemen. It's high time we look at some of our genin as they prepare for the upcoming tournament. This little prelude will be a two-parter. This is obviously an approach to the climax everyone knows and loves in canon. But this is a gentle reminder that rewrites can go in different directions sometimes. This isn't to dissuade your predictions or suggest a change of opinion, simply that events aren't going to unfurl in quite the same way. I've also been getting relentless positivity from how I handled the fights in Phase 2.5. But I think there will always be some anxiety for me concerning how a fight plays out, or even how it concludes. Even though there hasn't been any stark dismissal of my rewrite yet, it's still oddly a worry for me. But enough rambling, let's get into today's episode. Naruto and Shikamaru are sitting in the hall outside the Hokage's office. Both their parents are in the office discussing who knows what. Naruto asks Shikamaru why he isn't helping Neji or Sasuke train. In return, Shikamaru asks Naruto if he knows who his teammates are. He's been saddled with some of the most stubborn people around. He couldn't even find Sasuke, and Neji flat out refused help. After that, how much effort is Shikamaru expected to put in? Shrugging, Naruto brags that his first match is easy. It's what comes next, now that's concerning. Shikamaru warns Naruto that Sakura isn't that easy. In the time until the tournament, Naruto should figure out how to counter Genjutsu. He even points out that Sakura's Genjutsu isn't one that affects the victim directly, so simply dispelling it wouldn't necessarily work. Naruto looks at him as if he was on mute, and scratches his head at the analysis. Shikamaru asks Naruto how much he even knows about Genjutsu. It's a less used branch of jutsu that, if ignored, can have dire consequences. Naruto can be the strongest in the world, and if he doesn't know how to dispel a basic genjutsu, he'd be an idiot walking into a wall. Naruto sighs and says the fox is way smarter than him. Worst case scenario, it'll burst out again and solve the problem. Naruto hugs himself at the thought, disturbed at its frequent occurrences lately. Shikamaru studies Naruto carefully for several seconds before sighing and glancing at the Hokage's door. Inching sideways until he's right beside Naruto, he whispers that he knows a secret. Kind of annoyed that Shikamaru's gotten so close, Naruto tells him to get away, ignoring what he's just said. Shikamaru tells him to shut up and just listen. There's a well-kept secret about the Jinchuriki in the village. Naruto raises an eyebrow at him, wondering how could there be a secret about himself that he wouldn't already know. His dad's always been open about the information regarding the fox, so the suggestion is nonsensical. Shikamaru tells Naruto that for as long as he's known him, he's wanted to tell Naruto this. His whole life, he's been sitting on this secret that he's been forced to keep. He doesn't like seeing Naruto so anxious about the fox, and thinks that if he shares this great secret, Naruto would be more calm. If he's calm, he's relaxed. And if he's relaxed, he might even be friendlier and more trusting. Sighing again and yet again glancing at the Hokage's door, Shikamaru mutters in an almost silent voice. There's a reason they put me in Team 7 with the other elites. Naruto, I wasn't chosen because of my grades. The door to the office cracks open and Shikaku comes out looking calm. Grinding his teeth at his dad's timing, Shikamaru stands up and says his farewells to Naruto. Having learned nothing, and essentially unconcerned about the information, Naruto jumps to his feet upon seeing his dad. Minato swings an arm around Naruto's shoulders, and suddenly both are standing in their home. He asks Naruto if he's come to him for more training. Naruto wants to say yes, but he's come to an impasse. He reveals that Asuma-sensei confiscated his kunai for the Flying Raijin. Minato seems unsurprised, until Naruto reveals that he kind of wants to finish Phase 3 without it. Minato reminds him that acting tough is a bad choice in the deciding factor for a Chunin promotion. Naruto grumbles at the idea of the promotion. After the fox came out of him in Phase 2.5, how is he expected to ever get a promotion now? Who would trust him out in the field? But this also gives Naruto pause. He turns to his dad and says that while they were in the forest, he was in this weird space. In the weird space, Minato was there, but he was blurry and didn't talk. And there was a woman's voice as well. And then when he came out from that space, he had this strange resolve that he's never experienced before, as if he didn't even have the fox inside of him. Minato tells him that was part of their reinforcement of the seal. He deposited some of his own chakra into the seal, hoping that his artificial presence would help calm Naruto. He kneels beside his son and suggests that the woman's voice was likely his mother, Kushina. The kind of seal she used to put the fox inside Naruto is unique. When a jutsu kills its user, it sort of prevents proper research from being done on the jutsu. How can you replicate it if everyone constantly dies from it? As such, Minato thinks that when Naruto was a newborn baby and Kushina created the seal, she also put her chakra inside Naruto. Naruto asks what the seal was called again, and Minato repeats the Reaper Death Seal. It's really good for sealing practically anything away, but at the cost of the user's life. But Kushina's time was already limited since the fox had been pulled out of her. Jinchuriki cannot survive without their beast, just as the beast cannot survive without the host. This sparks the question for Naruto if there were any secrets about him that Minato has kept. Turning his head on an angle, confused at the question, Minato shakes his head. He tells Naruto that the fox sees and hears everything Naruto does. So some secrets, not necessarily about him, must be kept from the fox. It's a necessary measure to help keep the village most secure. But he assures Naruto that in a few years they'll be able to train him to control the fox for good. When that time comes, any secrets that have ever been kept from him can be revealed. But Minato assures him that there aren't really any secrets that would even affect him anyway. Moving on from the topic, Minato tells Naruto that he wants to see how he's progressed with the wind techniques he's been taught and exits into the backyard. Excitedly following after, Naruto's eager to show off his moves. As Naruto expected of himself, he pulls off the wind sheath remarkably simply. This time with no pressure, he doesn't even tear his sleeve apart, something that Minato notes. Minato reminds him while he's concentrating that fire is strong against wind. He needs to stay wary of elemental advantages and disadvantages. Naruto can't just use super strong wind and hope it'll solve all his problems. If wind doesn't work, he needs to switch tactics. However, Naruto is unable to replicate the wind shuriken and wind sword. Minato's not disappointed though, considering how little time Naruto had to train any of it. His next advice to Naruto is to wrap shuriken in his wind and throw them short distances to get used to the feeling. Each time he is comfortable with the exertion, he can throw them a little further. Once he's reached the point where he can throw them as far as a target, he can then start the process of removing the metal shuriken altogether. It's a difficult process, but a necessary one in unlocking the ability to use the wind sword. He suggests to Naruto, since he's on limited time, to go find Jiraiya and get pointers on the Rasengan. This sours Naruto a bit, as it reminds him of Jiraiya's interaction with Sasuke in private. He doesn't want his dad to worry about it, so he absent-mindedly agrees. Later, Naruto has decided to seek someone for help on how to tackle Genjutsu. Shikamaru may have been talking a lot of nonsense, but he was also talking a lot of sense. If Naruto can't tackle Sakura's Genjutsu, then the proctor may even call off the match. What if it takes hours, and Iruka decides that Naruto will never figure it out? As he wanders through town, he spots Orochimaru looking through a parting of trees towards the northwest, towards the land of Earth. A little creeped out, Naruto stops and slowly tries to backpedal away, but Orochimaru calls him out, asking what he wants. Relaxing only slightly, Naruto shrugs and asks if Orochimaru knows anything about Genjutsu. Sighing, Orochimaru turns to him, annoyed. Naruto puts his hands up in an effort to say never mind and tries to inch away. But Orochimaru tells Naruto that he has more power inside of him than the entire village combined. But he's still afraid of a little girl. Naruto complains that it's not exactly his power. He can't simply use it at the drop of a hat. The fox isn't so generous. In exchange, Orochimaru tells him that the fox has absolutely no room to be anything. Greedy, selfish, whatever. It sees what Naruto sees. Orochimaru could kill Naruto right now, before the fox ever has an opportunity to escape. This would kill the fox. This supposed meteoric power that could end a nation would die instantly if its host were killed. The fox has nothing. After a bit of an awkward silence, Orochimaru tells Naruto that he's not going to kill him. That is, unless he deems him a threat to the village. So that means it's in the fox's best interest to help Naruto as much as possible. Turning towards the west again, Orochimaru tells Naruto he's going for a walk and invites him along. As they walk, Naruto sees Rock Lee nearby walking on his hands and overhears a whisper of ridicule from Orochimaru. The disgust on Orochimaru's face is very telling of what he thinks of Rock Lee. Orochimaru tries to mask this by moving on quickly and asks Naruto why he didn't just go to Jiraiya right away. Naruto sighs and tells him that Jiraiya betrayed his trust, and he doesn't really feel like talking to him now. Chuckling, Orochimaru tells Naruto that Jiraiya is like that sometimes, but he doesn't have any ill will. At the end of the day, if Naruto wants a Sannin teacher, Orochimaru would rather he go back to Jiraiya. Naruto tells him that he's probably right, but while he's here, does Orochimaru have any counters for genjutsu? He wants to repeat what Shikamaru told him, but he can't really remember it, so he tells Orochimaru that Sakura doesn't do normal genjutsu. Orochimaru tells Naruto that if he were to plug out his eyes, then visual genjutsu wouldn't affect him. If he burnt Naruto's nostrils, then scent-based genjutsu wouldn't affect him. Kill a sense, and that style of genjutsu won't affect you. Naruto grumbles that he doesn't want to lose his eyes just to beat Sakura. Rolling his own eyes, Orochimaru tells Naruto that it was simply an analogy for what he could do instead. Groaning at the riddle, Naruto asks if Orochimaru can be more clear. Hissing, Orochimaru tells Naruto to learn how to fight with his eyes closed. If he can't trust what he's looking at, then use another sense. Naruto grabs at his hair in frustration and points out that he only has 2 weeks, and that kind of thing sounds like it would take 100 years to sort out. Grabbing Naruto by the collar, not menacingly, but more to grab the kid's attention, Orochimaru, with annoyance, repeats that he has the fox inside him. If he knew how to even a little bit borrow the fox's power, then he could close his eyes and the fox could pump up his other senses. Doing the groaning this time, Orochimaru wonders why the village puts tailed beasts inside of stupid children. Naruto reminds Orochimaru that the fox is impossible to control. Even if he wants to work with the fox isn't so willing. Remembering how Kushina performed with the fox sealed within, Orochimaru shakes his head in thought. Squatting beside Naruto, he tells him to show the seal, the fox's prison. Somewhat unsure, Naruto lifts his jacket to reveal his belly, and per Orochimaru's instructions, channels some chakra. Orochimaru's brow immediately furrows and he straightens again. Grimacing that his afternoon's been ruined, he nods his head further down the path and tells Naruto to follow him to his lab. Meanwhile, outside the Hokage's office, Jiraiya is standing with folded arms as he looks down at Sasuke. He's repeating that the Rasengan isn't his jutsu to pass off. He introduced the 3 basic steps that Minato followed to create it in hopes that Sasuke could invent something new himself. Whether Sasuke thinks it or not, he has an intuition that few others in the village do. When presented with a puzzle, Sasuke wouldn't simply solve it the normal way, but come up with a new method. At least, that's what Jiraiya had hoped when he gave the rough instructions on inventing a jutsu. He reminds Sasuke that the leaf has several great inventors itself. The second Hokage was one of the most prolific in terms of jutsu creation, and he created several mighty powerful jutsu. Sasuke has it in him to create just as much, but he can't start with someone else's jutsu. Jiraiya thinks that'll simply stunt his growth. But Sasuke argues that he's against a taijutsu specialist. He was bursting with confidence at first, but the more he thinks about it, the more he's realizing that if Rock Lee is better at taijutsu than him, then 2 weeks isn't enough time to cover that gap. So he was banking on learning some powerful ninjutsu to keep the scales balanced. Jiraiya grimaces at Sasuke and tells him that he's got all the tools he needs to win already. Sasuke asks the Sannin why he showed him anything with the Chunin exams on the horizon if he didn't have time to learn it. Sighing, Jiraiya tells Sasuke that the most common injuries that Tsunade has to deal with are from taijutsu combat. Sure, ninjutsu is more overtly lethal, but he's not allowed to kill during Phase 3. A light sparks in Sasuke's head, and he thanks Jiraiya for his time before dashing away. He only has 2 weeks, and Jiraiya was most interested in small talk with him. If he wasn't going to help, Sasuke still knew another Sannin with lethal skills. In the Konoha main hospital, Tsunade is shaking her head at Sakura. She tells her that the book she lent her had all the knowledge Sakura should ever need for her journey from Genin to Jonin. Sakura agrees with her as Shizune and a couple other assistants move around them, but argues that a lot of the more advanced stuff takes time to learn. Well, Sakura only has 2 weeks and needs something impressive that she can show off at the tournament. She's not so concerned about Naruto, or even of Tenten or Omoi if she's being honest. Omoi's kind of a question mark, but she's been able to hide successfully in her fights leading up to now. But later, be it Shino or Gaara, she's quite terrified of facing either of them. And if it's Sasuke or Rock Lee, she's not sure how that would end up. And if it's Neji, then her only strength would be entirely quashed. Tsunade tells her that if it's a genjutsu she's looking for, to look elsewhere. Kurenai might not be a Sannin, but she's still one of the best in the village for genjutsu. Sakura shouldn't dismiss her teacher's abilities simply because she's not a Sannin. Sakura agrees and tells her that she'd normally go to Kurenai, but she's doing some specialized training with Shino right now. Tsunade suggests then that maybe Sakura's being a little too impatient. As she says so, she runs forward to catch some beakers from falling off a nearby counter and gives Shizune an annoyed look. She looks around at the other assistant and tells them both to take a break. As they leave, Tsunade points out to Sakura that Shizune and Kabuto are both specialized for healing, but both have turned their strengths in healing into an offensive power as well in their own unique way. Maybe Sakura needs to start thinking outside the box. Genjutsu doesn't solve all problems. Head dropping, Sakura accepts her fate and turns to leave, bonking into Sasuke. She tells him to watch where he's going, immediately masking her disappointment and converting it into anger at him. He asks her why she's standing around. Shouldn't she be training? Pushing him away, she stomps down the hall, hoping that it'll somehow affect Tsunade's decisions. Tsunade rolls her eyes at him and tells him that she can't entertain every genin that seeks her out. Sasuke tells her that he just needs the basics and he'll figure out the rest himself. Raising an eyebrow at him, she asks him the basics of what? He tells her that it's well known how strong Lady Tsunade is. He wants to learn how she applies the jutsu to augment her strikes. She smiles at him and tells him that one needs to have immaculate chakra control in order to pull it off. If one is even a little bit too sloppy with it, they could break their own arm. Sasuke tells her that if he breaks his own arms and has to forfeit the tournament, then so be it. He needs to get stronger, no matter what. She studies him for a while. She remembers when Fugaku bragged to her about how his young son created such a powerful fireball jutsu without any assistance in his training. It even reminded him of the precision and skill of Itachi, his firstborn. The child thought to be once in a generation in his genius was potentially matched by his own little brother. She also recalls the exceptional grades that Sasuke had throughout his time in academy. According to Kakashi, he's less stubborn than the Hyuga kid as a kicker. "Alright," she says at last, grinning at him and telling him to channel chakra for a moment. Forming a basic seal, Sasuke takes a quick breath and begins coursing chakra through his body. Passing her hands over his arms, just out of reach, Tsunade takes note of several things. Clicking her tongue, she tells him that his chakra control isn't as precise as he needs it to be. Instead of giving up, he asks her how he can make it even more precise. She tells him to then spend the rest of the day channeling chakra. If he can continuously channel it until the sun goes down, then he'll have proven that he can channel it efficiently and accurately enough to learn her powered taijutsu. And if not, he'll just have to repeat it every day until he can. As he begins his channeling journey, Tsunade tells him, well, not here. Go outside to the front courtyard. Train there. Sakura is walking down the street, now dejected and unsure of how to progress. Overhead, she spots an Anbu leaping across rooftops and wonders why she spotted them. Generally, the Anbu operate so professionally that no one ever sees them. Leaping to a rooftop herself, Sakura looks in the direction they were traveling and sees a half-dozen Anbu kneeling around Lord Jiraiya in broad daylight upon further rooftops. Scrunching her face in confusion, Sakura watches them for a time until a tap on her shoulder alerts her to another Anbu. He kneels beside her and tells her it's not wise to spy on the village's elite spies. She apologizes with a slight chuckle and looks at the Anbu's mask. It's rare, even for the villagers, to stand so close to Anbu in a casual setting, and Sakura asks him why they're having a meeting in such a public setting. The Anbu asks her how he could possibly answer that question, encouraging another chuckle from her. The Anbu gives a sudden start, surprised by Jiraiya's sudden proximity as the Sannin stands over both of them. Sakura looks up at Jiraiya and wonders how skilled he could possibly be to even surprise an Anbu. Forget her spotting him, he was so sudden that he even scared the Anbu. Without a word between them, the Anbu vanishes. Jiraiya asks her what her problem is spying on the meeting. She insists that she was too far away to hear anything, just that she noticed them and didn't have time to leave before she was caught. It had only been a couple seconds. He grimaces and confirms that she's in the Phase 3 tournament. Nodding, she tells him that she's a Genjutsu specialist looking for more ways to improve. He tells her that Genjutsu is for utility and defense, so how does she expect to win a fight with a brute like Naruto? She shrugs, expecting that he's not really a concern for her. Jiraiya frowns and makes sure that she knows that Naruto's a Jinchuriki. Nodding slowly, she says that every time that fox comes out, someone jumps in and stops him, so she's not really afraid of that. Jiraiya shakes his head. He tells her that generally, Jinchuriki are individuals that have a lot of innate chakra. Naruto is both an Uzumaki and a Namikaze. Both those clans have a wealth of chakra at their fingertips, and Naruto is both. If she's hoping to outlast him, she won't. It doesn't matter how clever she is, she can't win that scenario. Growing anxious, Sakura splutters that she didn't think she needed to worry about Naruto. What's she supposed to do then? If she can't outlast him and outwitting him won't do anything, then what's she supposed to do? Jiraiya scratches his chin for a moment before telling her that Genjutsu can be used for offense. But the complexity of such a jutsu is generally considered Jonin tier. Sakura doesn't care, she's willing to learn it. Shaking his head and waving his hand, Jiraiya tells her that she doesn't understand. It's Jonin tier because offensive Genjutsu requires such a level of chakra that few genin would be able to pull it off. Sakura just has not reached that level yet. As her head sinks again, Jiraiya wonders if maybe she's interested in learning something else instead. She asks, what does he have in mind? He asks her how much she knows about the Rasengan. Other than being Lord Fourth's invention, she's got no idea. Jiraiya tells her that like Lord Second, Minato has an eye for inventing jutsu. The great strength of inventing new jutsu is that no one knows how to counter it because they've never seen it before. He tells her that whether she chooses ninjutsu or taijutsu, both are remarkable supplements to genjutsu. While she hides in the shadows of her genjutsu, if she has a strong one-hit offensive technique, she only needs to expose herself once. Nodding along, Sakura starts to see the tactics laid out by Jiraiya. She asks him what she should do then, and, well, he asks what type she'd rather use. Considering that she uses her chakra for genjutsu, taijutsu might be the better option. On the other hand, if her opponent sees through the genjutsu, she'd rather maintain her range. Deciding on it, she asks him to teach her a ninjutsu. He tells her that this time he'll teach her, but after the exams, it's on her to learn one on her own. Minato puts a hand on Jiraiya's shoulder while he's talking to Sakura, and suddenly both are in Orochimaru's lab. Orochimaru is furious. Sitting in a chair behind him is Naruto, who seems to know what's going on. Orochimaru asks Minato and Jiraiya, both, what were they thinking? Minato opens his mouth to ask, but decides against it and closes his mouth again. Orochimaru is a grump in every waking moment of his life, but he's rarely overtly angry like he is now. There's a reason for it, so Minato chooses to simply wait for an explanation. Orochimaru points at Naruto and asks what kind of seal was used to seal the fox inside him. Jiraiya, of course, tells him the Reaper Death Seal. Yes! Orochimaru snaps quickly. The Reaper Death Seal. How many people have performed that jutsu? I can count on one hand how many people performed it. That means there's been little to no experimentation on this jutsu. Jiraiya asks him where he's going with this because he's not in the mood for a lecture on a seal that they all know equally about. Kushina was dying. She only had moments to spare before the last of her life left, so she performed the only sealing jutsu that made sense for her situation. Luckily, she was an Uzumaki and had ample knowledge on seals. She was able to use her quick wit to find the most appropriate seal for the moment. But that's not the seal we use for Jinchuriki, you idiot! Kushina, and Mito before her, had the 8 trigram seal. Oh no, Minato mutters, realizing what's gone wrong, but Jiraiya still hasn't grasped it. The 8 trigram seal was designed specifically with sealing the Nine Tails in mind. It kept the fox curtailed completely. That's why we're seeing crazy influxes in its power with Naruto, because his isn't the 8 trigrams. But you, Orochimaru shouts, pointing at Jiraiya, you decided to apply a reinforcing seal that was specifically designed for the 8 trigram seal on the Reaper Death seal. You've combined 2 incompatible seals. At this moment, the seal on Naruto is weaker than it's ever been. It's no wonder that the fox's intrusion at the Forest of Death was so obvious. How could you idiots not consult me on this seal? You think Jiraiya knows more about this than me? Do you not trust me, Lord Fourth? For all my intentions, I do not want the village destroyed. And the moment you put that seal on Naruto, you put a timer on all our deaths. There's no way to reinforce a Reaper Death seal because it's never needed to be reinforced in any other situation. If the cost is someone's life, the power of the seal is insurmountable. Screwing around with its foundations only ever weakens it. So what do we do? Minato asks. That's a great question. Orochimaru laughs with putrid anger. We have to remove the reinforcing seal, but doing so might completely unbalance the Reaper Death seal. It's bad news or worse news because of both you idiots. The chances of success on this are a complete unknown. You've permanently altered Naruto's life because you relied on no one's knowledge beyond this moron. Orochimaru, not in front of whom? Naruto? I already told him everything before you got here. He deserves more than anyone else to know what you've gotten him into. Minato becomes sullen and looks down at Naruto, who's now uncomfortable. Kneeling beside Naruto, Minato offers his apologies for being so short-sighted when he was trying to help. Swallowing, Naruto recoils slightly from Minato and asks him if his life is really going to be worse now. Bringing a hand to his brow, Minato tries his very best not to be furious at Orochimaru for being so brazen with the information. At the end of the day, it's Orochimaru who's trying to help fix the situation. Standing, Minato promises Naruto to do everything he can to return life to normal. He asks Orochimaru for help in removing the seal. The reinforcement seal. Jiraiya pulls up his sleeves and approaches, ready to assist, but Orochimaru holds up a hand to stop him. You caused this. I know your handiwork anywhere. You will not muddy the waters any further. When Jiraiya tries to protest, Minato snaps that he needs to leave now, if that's all it takes to better protect Naruto. The sun sets as Jiraiya returns to the village, disappointed with the day. How could he have forgotten about the seal compatibility? It was so obvious in hindsight. As the sun disappears at last behind the trees, Sasuke collapses to his hands and knees. His vision blurs and divides as he looks down at his hands with barely the strength to stay awake. He hears Tsunade speak to him, but it's an incomprehensible gargle followed swiftly by his own unconsciousness. Tsunade lifts him up and smiles. He's not ready yet. A horn sounds in the distance as Tsunade turns to go inside. This is a slow, deep horn whose sound almost oscillates through the air. Frowning, Tsunade turns toward its direction. They're a bit late for Minato's summons. She watches briefly as a great caravan arrives at the edge of town before turning to bring Sasuke inside the hospital. And that's the end of today's episode. I'm really rocking the boat, huh? Well, before I get into that, I do want to touch on the life of the Sannin. They're going to be playing extremely important roles in the war, but since Minato is postponing their attempted invasion until after the Chunin exams, the Sannin are mostly in the same roles as usual. Orochimaru has the most free time, since he usually doesn't contribute all that much to the village. Tsunade has more than Shizune to help her in her tasks at the hospital, so she has more free time than she'd readily admit. Jiraiya is most busy as he's already taken on the responsibility of directing the Yonbu, but since all of those responsibilities involve moving around town and making sure its sectors are equally and adequately protected, he's never more than a stone's throw away. This is the last bit of freedom everyone will have for a while, so the Sannin particularly are doing whatever they want. It's been many years since any of them have taken on students, and Chunin exams before the continuation of a great war have stirred up their urge to teach. I hope everyone was paying attention for the cameo appearance of someone who showed up much earlier in canon. They've been present all this time in my rewrite, but their time to shine isn't quite yet, so it's challenging to roll them into the sequence of events. So rocking the boat, the Sannin have clearly directed their attention to different genin here. This was a fun adventure for me. Jiraiya is the most diverse when it comes to jutsu use, so I thought the idea of him being an inventor, or at least admirer of jutsu inventions, would be a cool twist to his character. Given Sasuke's opponent, I think Tsunade is the logical choice for him as well. Not just in the potential of learning her power taijutsu, but perhaps in other ways as well. And Naruto with Orochimaru is just fun. Honestly, Orochimaru's cold truth might help Naruto sort out what he needs to sort out too. So another question might be, why didn't they go to their teachers first? Well, I wanted to streamline this bit before Phase 3 officially began. Also, just the way their teams are aligned with which genin have passed, Shino's with Kurenai, Neji's with Kakashi, and Tenten's with Asuma. Just the way the genin have chosen to pair off with certain teachers, Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke were sort of forced today to find a different method of improvement. I understand the argument could be made that the Jonin can teach more than one student at a time, but these kids are training to fight each other. They don't exactly want to expose what they're training to their potential opponents. Finally, as to Orochimaru's rage rant. Halfway through script reading, I got a noise complaint from my upstairs neighbors, so the volume might fluctuate. If you'd like, just imagine a slew of F-bombs littered in there. Orochimaru was truly furious, but I want to keep my rewrite free of obscenities. In the uncensored version, there was maybe a dozen F-bombs, 20 or 30 poop emojis, and at least a couple female dogs in there. Stay tuned for next time as we wrap up this intermission. I want to keep some of the training unknown so there can be more fun at the tournament. And what exactly did Shikamaru want to tell Naruto? And what was that caravan at the end? We're going to have to find out later, because the sky's the limit.